Hello? Oh shit, I forgot. Oh god. I forgot I changed my gain while I was teaching. I'm so sorry. Oh fuck. Okay. Hi. Hello everybody. So, welcome to my twisted mind. Welcome to oh no, my boobs, my tits. No. Okay, there we go. Welcome to my twisted mind. Today is the day where I just talk about my original characters and scream. But welcome everybody. Also, Mia, thank you so much for getting my card. I really hope you liked it. Yes, I'm hoping one day I can get like a model upgrade where I can eventually like have a full body, because I don't have any fucking legs. Where eventually I can get a full like upgrade and like have like the saw like with me or something like that. I think that would be like really cool. But that's my like ultimate goal. But right now we balling on a budget, and we just legs weren't in the budget. And that's how it be sometimes. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I am excited to we do have legs on the 3D. So it's like situational legs. It's like an on-off switch. Sometimes I have legs, sometimes I don't. Really depends on the vibes. But my Skyrim model, which I believe the card is also featured in Rift Runners, that one does it. We don't have feet. Okay, we don't have feet yet, but we do have thighs. So I'm slowly like growing more and more. My limbs generate like as time goes on. But I do need to schedule time. It's probably gonna be after OFFKAI Expo, because I'm so heckin' busy right now. Because I got my Rift Runners box in the mail today. If you don't know, Rift Runners is a VTuber TCG that I and a bunch of other cool VTubers are in. So I'm hoping I can pull myself. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna be kind of bummed if I don't pull myself. Like, I feel like that would say a lot about my luck. But I'm also hoping I pull some of my friends too, because some of my friends are in it as well. So that way I can call them and be like, I have you. I think it'd be really funny, you know? But today, what I want to do is I want to scream. So I play Skyrim. I play a lot of Skyrim, and I'm currently writing a fantasy novel, right? And when I play Skyrim, a lot of times the way I do it, like I'll use Skyrim as like a blank canvas, because I have so many fucking mods in it, right? To try and kind of figure out stories and appearances for my characters. And I've kind of been doing that in my streams the past, like, I guess almost a year. Actually, yeah, it has been over a year now. Especially with like the mod pack I use, the Immersive Collection. So pretty much a lot of these original characters I want to talk about, I've actually had since I was like 12, right? But I talk about them all the time in stream and passing, but I was like, you know what? It's time for lore. So let me pull up MS Paint. Like that's where we're at today. Okay, make this, here we go. Game, oh, turn off the wench counter. We don't need the wedge counter anymore. Mia, thank you so much for the follow. You know, I guess I could keep girl boss. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. Let me put me down here, and then let me do bing 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 bing. Me not prepared? No, that'd be crazy. Okay, so right over here, but okay, MS Paint. Haha. Whoa. Wait, why is do you see that? Is that supposed to happen? I don't think that's supposed to happen. Let's try that again. Maybe if it's not capture cursor. Okay, there we go. If I draw on it, why is it like dark? That's so weird. What the hell happened here? I don't know. I'm trying to show my MS Paint, and then it looked like I was like, you know what it kind of looked like? It kind of looked like one of those, like, have you ever seen those fake, like, anti-piracy screens that people make? I always think they're kind of nifty. But that's, like, what it looked like. My mouse was, like, multiplying. Okay, MS Paint. Hello? Hello? Let me put this up here. There we go. Yay! Okay, so if you were on Tumblr, or really in any fandom space, at any point in time, really, something you might have seen at some point is a shipping chart. Okay, hi guys, welcome in, gamer. I'm actually seeing night sky in factory. Ooh, it's so dark since smoke covers the atmosphere. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's like the one thing I miss about living in Yeehaw Land, because I used to live in Yeehaw Land, and now I live in like, not Yeehaw Land, like I don't live like in the city, but I'm like, it's like a little bit more city than we had before. You know what I mean? And that's like the one thing I miss about like not like living in Yeehaw Land is not being able to see like stars and stuff because of light pollution. So anytime I go to my parents' house, because they still live in what I like to call bumfuck nowhere, I like to go, I like to try and like look at the stars and stuff like that. Okay, here is this image I made. But if you were on Tumblr, right, or I don't think it was just a Tumblr thing. I think it was like everywhere, right? People would make shipping charts of like characters of like who they love, who they hate, who they're like related to, stuff like that. So you understood all the lore. So I made this little circle of all my OCs, and in hindsight, I made it, okay, we're gonna expand. They look a little low poly now, but that's okay. That's fine. That's okay. So pretty much all of these characters are characters I've either written about or I've played on stream, or in some cases both. And you might be wondering, why is this bitch here? Wait, let me make sure it's capturing my cursor. Here we go. Capture cursor, just so I can point aggressively. Hello? Yeah, why is this bitch here? What is she doing, right? So the one thing that I feel like I kind of glaze over sometimes, well, not all the time, but sometimes, is that when I started writing my VTuber lore, I just kept going and going and going. So my VTuber lore is the same universe as my fantasy novel. Because my strengths as a writer is like, I'm really good at coming up with characters, but I'm really bad at world building. So David said he might come in here and harass me later to ask me world building questions, because world building stresses me out. There's so much going on. And it's like one of those things where it's like, I just want to write cool stories about cool people. If you ask me what the number one export is in a town, I don't know what the fucking answer to that is. I'm still figuring that out, right? But this is essentially something where we can kind of talk about the tea behind everyone, right? So first we need some labels. So we'll do, can I use like a different brush? I don't know what the brushes are in MSP. Let's use me. Okay, can I make that thicker? I don't know how to draw, by the way. So like this is like, I feel like I go full teacher mode when I'm like, I'm not an artist, but like, you know? Let me see. Okay, so this is going to be, should red be like love or enemies? Because I feel like this is like red love, like heart, right? But also this red looks kind of violent. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of, oh shit. It's kind of intimidating. You know, maybe I will make pink love. Okay, red is gonna be, here, we'll do rectangle. I like rectangle. Red is going to be enemies. Okay, so type that in, write that down. Enemies, okay? There we go. And it's, why is it so small? Why, don't be small. Yay. Okay, there we go. Why is that not showing up on screen? Enemies. For every race you add, you have to explain that race. That's the thing, is like, Rasha over here, my beautiful orc girl, and I know they're like low poly, but I'm gonna show more pictures of them when we talk about each character. I love her so much, but like, I want to include her in my story because she is a cool character and I like her a lot, and she's just so adorable, but now I have to have an explanation for orcs. And I'm like, fuck. So I think that's why also I gravitate to Skyrim so often, is because it's like I can kind of just make stories in the world around me, you know? So red is gonna be enemies, and then we'll do pink as love. There's not a ton of romantic relationships, but there's like some, okay? And a lot of them, admittedly, are really toxic. I'm very much the type of writer where it's like, these characters want to be happy. No, we don't allow that. We don't do that here. Also, I'm gonna be honest, some of the characters, like, romantic relationships are just weird. Like, the reader isn't meant to be like, oh my god, that's so cute. The reader is meant to be like, you need to go to therapy. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm going for, you know? What else do we need? I guess we need, like, friendship. We'll do blue for friendship. I think that will work. So just, boop. There we go. There's our little key. And then that'll just be friends. There we go. Make that bigger. I don't know how I can change like the little default settings on paint, but that's okay. Bunk. Okay, friends. Are there any other categories? I mean, no one's like related, I think. I guess we could also have a it's complicated one, maybe. Let's do this one. Here we go. And then just make that green, and then it's complicated. Like I think that works. Here we go. Beep. Yeah, those are our 4 categories. Okay, so if you have not watched my Skyrim streams, you may not know the lore. Okay, you may not know the tea, or if you haven't read my book, and that's okay. The book only has 3 chapters, so because I'm slow, but I promise I'm still cooking. But as you can see, a lot of these screenshots are from Skyrim. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of go in order and give the lore about everyone. Okay, so this over here, and I don't have a ton of screenshots of her, but I do have some art of her. Let me see if I can find the art of her, because I know I have it. Okay, our first character that I would like to scream about is my homegirl Freya. I love Freya so much, and she's kind of the epitome of like, what's like a, I don't want to say she's a bimbo, you know what I mean? Because like, I feel like when you think of a bimbo, you don't think of like someone who's super jacked, you know what I mean? But like, she's kind of like, she's a little stupid, but in like an affectionate way. She really is trying her best and truly does mean well, right? So I have art of her because she's shown up in my book a few times. Well, she's a main character in my book, really, but I haven't done like a full Skyrim playthrough of her yet. Like, I made her in Skyrim just for sillies, right? But I haven't actually played her yet. Here it is. Let me add the here we go, and let me share my window real quick, my Canva. Can I show Canva? There we go. So like, put this right here for now. Bunk. Okay, here we go. So like, here we go. Oh wait, no, I wanted to open that in, fuck. Okay, we'll just do images. There we go. I tried to open it in Canva, but I accidentally, it won't let me open that. Here we go, photos. Okay. What? Let me show a photo. What the fuck? I'm trying to show a photo. Can I please share a photo? Show my screen, please. Okay, here, we'll change the game to photos because for some reason window capture is just out for my ass tonight, I guess. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this was like the first illustration I got. It's not like me like move it around for some reason. I don't know what's going on today. Scuff? Yeah. Scuff is just always happening today, and that's okay, right? But basically, the lore behind, yeah, there we go. Okay, so this was the first illustration I did for the first chapter of my book. And the TLDR is like, this is Vanya. We're going to talk about her later. And she's one of my big, like, playthrough ladies right now, okay? And if you've seen that playthrough, you know that Vanya grows up to be, she looks very sweet and innocent right now. But when she grows up, she's kind of the epitome of, I believe in women's rights and women's wrongs. And this is Freya, right? So Freya, essentially, her backstory is her parents were adventurers, right? And she kind of does, they were part of this big adventuring guild. I don't remember the name of it. Even though I came up with it, I forgot the name. I'd have to, let me actually open Obsidian too. Obsidian is the software I use to organize all my world building notes. And I'm not really good at using it, but I like it because you can kind of like make a wiki of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of make a wiki based off like your universe. So, like for example, let me show you. Phil, let you. Ah! Oh wait. Games built on Chromium cannot be captured using game capture. Okay, well, I guess I'll just shit my pants then. I don't know what you want me to do. Okay, here we go. This one. Aha. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so basically, it doesn't show like all of it. Here you go. But you can kind of make your own like little categories in it. So I have like history stuff that's important to the world. I have all my major characters. I have my minor characters, places, which is this one's getting no chunky, and religion and theology, right? So like I said, I'm not really good at world building, and I'm still in like the beginner stages of it in a way, because my characters are really fleshed out. but that's kind of it. But the one thing I like about it is you can see everything is like a little ball of lore. And you can kind of zoom in and see how like a bunch of stuff is connected in a way, right? So again, I still have a lot of work to do with this, but it's very, very cool. But anyway, the TLDR essentially, right, is basically Freya's parents were part of this adventuring guild called the Strangers of the Spear, and their whole thing was they were hired by the king of where Freya is from, right, to basically hunt down witches and mages, because those are illegal. Because they're all, I mean, it's my world, but like, they're basically just like, we fear what we do not understand, you know, like, that's kind of what it is, right? So they were hired essentially, and I don't know why my shit's not showing. I'm really tempted to just like, do I just share my whole screen? Do we just say fuck it and just share my whole screen? That's a dangerous fucking game. That's a very dangerous game. It's fine. It's fine. Let me just, yeah, we're just gonna, oh wait, now it's working? Okay, there we go. You know what? Close enough. That's fine. But basically, right, her parents were adventurers. They were sent out to kill a bunch of mages and stuff like that. And they were really good at killing mages. They were like so good at mass murder. They like excelled at it. They were like, you know, top of their class in war crime. You know, they really aced that shit. But the thing is Freya was literally born in the midst of all that shit, right? They were like, we stop for no one. We slow down for no one. So she literally just kind of grew up around violence her whole life. And I feel like you think a child that grows up seeing all that kind of shit would turn out to be a really shitty person. But arguably, if we were to give Girly a D&D alignment, it would probably be neutral good, honestly, because her whole thing is she is kind of coming to terms with what her parents did and what they taught her about how magic is bad. Magic is, you know, an affront against the gods, you know, and mages are a disgrace to society, with the fact that she has a new bestie because she's an orphan. Spoiler alert, her parents fucking die. But now at the age of 13, 14, she becomes an orphan. I meet homegirl Vanya over here. And Vanya is kind of, am I allowed to, how do I phrase this? Because she was like 14, but she was kind of a little bitch. You know what I mean? So like basically, Vanya got the shit kicked out of her every day because she's just kind of weird and she doesn't really fit in with everyone else. She's really quiet. She's very, she's kind of rude. You know, she's very standoffish. And she also just kind of speaks her mind in a way that people don't really like. So she gets the shit kicked out of her pretty often, right? So basically one day she's getting the shit kicked out of her and Miss New Girl in Town is like, hey, I think kicking the shit out of people is not good, actually. And the guy kicking the shit out of her, which he is a character here too, we'll get to him, is like, why? What are you gonna do about it, huh? And so she decks the fuck out of him. And the two become friends. And in the crossfire, right, Freya gets a little fucked up. And Vanya's like, let me use my healing magic to make you all better. And Freya's like, whoa, holy fuck! So basically, hi, Ultimate Gamer. I am info-dumping about my OCs. So basically, Freya is now having this moral dilemma of like, oh, my parents told me that mages were bad, but this mage is my friend and she's cool and she doesn't seem like she's gonna get like corrupted in power and influence. She taught me how to braid my hair, so I guess it's okay. So that's kind of Freya's bit, is she's going through that, right? So if we were to go back to, let me go back to our little MS Paint over here. And let me stop sharing my whole last screen, because that's just me asking for trouble, honestly. If we go back to MS Paint, is it this one? Why is there two instances of MS Paint open? Side note. I feel like that's kind of concerning. Okay, MS Paint. This one? Why won't it let me show MS Paint? You bastard. Okay, window capture. MS Paint. MS Paint. You won't let me show you fucking MS Paint. That's so sick and twisted. Why can't I screen share MS Paint? Do I have to count MS Paint as a game? Is that it? Damn, we really can have no MSP. That is really sick and twisted. All right, fine. We'll go back to doing this move. Okay. Here we go. Wow, it's here. There we go. Okay, fine. So basically, Freya and Vanya, they are friends. Okay, they are friends. They are besties. Now, here's the thing. Is later on, it does get a little... it does get a little later on, right? Because eventually those conflicts are going to kind of come to the surface as they get older and as they go down different life paths, right? So if you are interested in reading my fantasy novel, you may not want to watch a lot of this stream because I'm about to just casually drop some major spoilers and character death. So, like, if you're, like, thinking, this sounds cool. I want to read Ibi's fantasy novel, which if you can find by typing !book in the chat. It'll give you 2 different links to read it. And you're thinking, that sounds pretty interesting. I can't wait to see what happens. I hope I can, like, experience the story. Well, maybe don't, watch the stream. Because I'm gonna give you the tea, okay? So, basically, right, what happens with Freya and Vanya? Let me see if I have the picture of them as adults, because I know I have it in my Skyrim screenshots. Let me open Steam real quick, and I should be able to find my Skyrim screenshots. Because I did make them in Skyrim because I fucking love Skyrim. Skyrim saved my family. I actually did make her originally, like, before I even started using Immersive and Epic. I've been streaming for a long time with the Immersive and Epic mod pack, but even before then, I did make her. So there's, like, a few different, like, iterations of her, in a way. I don't know what is showing MS Paint right now. Like, there is a window that is streaming it correctly. I don't know which one it is. Like, okay, that one's working. What? How do I... How do I get rid of MS Paint now? What the fuck? It's gone. Okay. I'm trying to, like, you can see the picture is being shared, but now MS Paint is just stuck there. This is scuffed. Okay, what if I... No? Okay. There we go. Okay. So, like, I did make her before I started, like, using mod packs and stuff like that. This was what she originally looked like, but she's always meant to be kind of, like, I don't want to say, like, stereotypical warrior lady, you know what I mean? But she's always kind of had the brown hair, and war paint has always been her vibe. I don't remember who this bitch is. These are just my old Skyrim screenshots. Yeah, I literally don't know who the fuck this is. I think this tried to be a self-insert of myself, but that's before I learned there was a mom bod preset on body slider. That is literally just Thistle. Why is she chopping? There we go. Okay, yeah. Yeah! So... essentially, Freya's whole bit is she eventually does grow up and she gets accepted into a very prestigious military position where she is then instructed to go on various expeditions and campaigns to find out more about what the mages are planning, right? But when I say the mages, basically there's a whole country that's like all mages. Do I have my world map? I probably do. I don't know if I have it on here, but I'll have to look because I do have a map of the world. I just need to find it. So that's where a lot of the that's where a lot of the complicated comes from, because it's like, we're best friends. Oh no, I need to kill your government. Whoopsie. So that can be, I mean, reasonably a little awkward for everybody involved. You know, more on that later, right? But here's some more pictures of her. Here's a picture. Yeah. Yeah. What? Like, yeah. Hun. So I have a lot of pictures of her. Again, I don't remember who the fuck this is. I think this was one of my Pathfinder characters that I made. And I admittedly sometimes play Skyrim like it is a dress-up game, okay? And that's what some of these pictures show. Is I was just like, pretty dresses, the hoops. I think I played her really briefly, like a few years ago, but I never like ended up doing anything with her. So this is also a kitsune I made one time. I had a kitsune mod and then I broke it. Oh yeah, okay, and this was one of the like really early versions of Vanya. Vanya's always kind of had resting bitch face. So the whole thing is we kind of also have the dynamic between them of Freya is very much kind of like a ball of sunshine. She's really sweet. She's really kind, you know. Even though she will absolutely bash your skull in, she will also lend you the shirt off her back. Whereas Vanya is kind of the opposite. You know, Vanya is very, like, skeptical, reserved, but she can warm up to you once you get to know her, right? So that's the tea on Freya. And we'll get more tea on her a little bit later, but I don't want to, like, lore drop too fast, too quick, too fast. You know what I mean? But anyway, so her bestie is, but that's the thing, is she died, her parents died on an expedition. She, like, watched them be burned to death by mages, which was not poggers. Watching your parents die is not gaming. And that's why she is still kind of hesitant towards Vanya. Like, she's chill with Vanya, but any other mage, she's like, still. So, which kind of makes sense, because she did watch her mages kill her parents, but she's gonna get over it eventually, right? So Vanya's whole deal is she kind of has a different experience of being an orphan. Vanya has no idea who her parents are. She literally doesn't know, and frankly, she kind of doesn't care, you know? She's kind of just like, yeah, I could find out who my birth parents are, or I could go to college. Like, that's her bit. Vanya is kind of our stereotypical wizard type character, right? She basically, I really need to find the world map for this. Let me see if we have it, because I know it's got to be there somewhere, but I want to find it so that way I can, like, point to it. Let me see. I know it's over there. It's just a question of what did I title it in my files. Haha, I found it. Okay. So basically, All right, here we go. World map. Okay, this is not labeled, by the way. The world map is still very much a work in progress of where I want to put shit. But this is like the general, like, makeup of the world. You know what I mean? So basically, they live in a country called Eldor, right? Vanya and Freya, right? And the thing is Eldor, oh, that's my model. The thing is Eldor used to have, like, a really kick-ass military. They still do to a degree, but they also had a whole-ass empire, all right? I'm gonna see if it could still let me open my, it's hard because I have, like, 3 things of photos open, so we're just gonna still do this. And then I'm gonna move VTube Studio to my other monitor. There we go. Okay. So the thing is, right, is Eldor at one point was home to the Eldian Empire, which basically owned this island right here, this mini island right here, and this big stretch of land, right? These other islands over here, they tried to take over and they lost. And eventually there was a lot of pushback over here, and the Eldian Empire has kind of been slowly breaking apart as different nations are kind of trying to get their independence from it. They still own this island right over here, but this big stretch of land is still all Eldor, which is still a lot of land, right? They're just no longer like an empire anymore. They're like a country, which is fine, you know, but some people are like, we want to be an empire again. So basically this is where they live, right? And because of kind of the nature of the culture there, right, a lot of it is based upon, they have this whole kind of culture of I guess, like, it's not like violence to be violence, because there are some places that are kind of violent to be violent, right? But it's a culture of you need to be a strong warrior. It's a very patriotic culture, right? And a lot of it is, it's like, you need to train and be a strong warrior so we can eventually take back the empire and rebuild the Eldian Empire to be what it is. So a lot of kids out there are fucking around with toy swords. They're like, I want to be in the military. I want to be in the military so fucking bad. If you don't want to be in the military, you're a fucking pussy, right? That's kind of like the culture there, right? And Freya is very much like, yeah, I want to be a military person, or I want to be an adventurer like my parents. But then her parents fucking died, so she's like, maybe the military is a safer bet. Like, that's kind of what's going on, right? So the thing is Vanya very much does not really, Vanya doesn't really give a shit about any of that kind of stuff. For one, Vanya's like, everyone here is mean to me. I've lived here my entire life, and all of you guys are assholes. I really don't give a shit about my country. Which, she has said that, and she got her shit kicked in for it, right? So Vanya is very much like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to leave, right? And the thing is it's a big fuck ass continent. Like, this is big. This is massive, right? Getting out of there is going to be really tricky, and it's probably going to cost a lot of money. It's not like a full-on dictatorship where they can't leave, but it's more so like, to pick up and move out of here is going to cost a lot of money that the average person, much less an orphan, probably doesn't have, right? So Vanya's whole plan, right, and keep in mind, she's like 14 when this is happening, right, is to increase her education as much as she can and eventually earn enough money or earn enough, like, renown as, like, a researcher, right, to be able to move here. This is where Vanya wants to be. This is the land of Irileth, also known as the land of the mages, or the birthplace of magic, right? So what essentially happened in the lore when we're thinking, let's talk about religion, okay? What happened in the religious part of the lore, right, is there's always been a council of gods. There's 12 of them. Do I remember what all of them are? No. I will get there when I get there, right? But basically, this council has been a big, not a big fan of magic, pretty much ever. And the Council of Gods, the Goddish Council, has basically been like, I don't think we can trust humanity with magic. So anytime a child came into the world that was deemed to have arcane abilities, the gods would sense it and just yoink and just yeet that child away, right? Now, the thing is a lot of the mages did not like being imprisoned by gods. They kind of were like, that's kind of mid, because they could use their powers, but in a heavily reduced way, right? So for a lot of mages, it was just kind of, whatever. But there was one mage who had the power of time travel, right? And not just time travel, but dimension travel, right? So pretty much she could see all of these doors and windows to other universes and other timelines, but she couldn't walk through them. And that's kind of like, So the other thing is the gods in this world, right? There's a council of the 12 most important gods, but gods are still a separate race in this world as well, right? So a lot of gods are really like being worshipped, but there's also a lot of gods that are like, I have no desire to ever serve on the Goddish Council. Being perceived by millions of people is fucking horrifying, because when you are a god and you take your seat at the Goddish Council, your appearance changes, right? And you know how, like, you know those really, like, shitty AI animations where it's never a consistent art style and it's always changing? That's kind of what the gods look like forever, right? As people's perception of them and the way they idolize them changes, their actual appearance changes too. So they never have a consistent appearance, and their bodies are always changing and morphing based on how people perceive them, right? Or how they illustrate them, right? And to one god, the son of the god of time was like, wow, that sounds really fucking terrifying. And this son of the god of time was getting up there in age, and it was time for him to take his father's place. And he was like, wow, I really don't want to do that. That sounds fucking awful. I actually kind of hate living here. And he met this one time witch lady, right? And they were like, hey, what if we left? What if we just skedaddled? What if we broke out of the heavens and descended upon a new timeline and started anew? And what if we also fell in love, right? That is essentially where that's me. That's where I come in, right? And the guy that helped break me out is David. Yes, I wrote my real life boyfriend into my lore. I love him very much, and I'm very mentally healthy. But essentially what happened is the timeline that spit us out was Vizoran, right? We crash landed right over here, and there's a bit of debate as to what I did. So some legends believe that I peacefully helped the mages break free of the gods' grasp, and I peacefully helped mages establish a stronghold and negotiate a treaty with Eldor to let the mages have their own land, and everything was cool and hunky-dory, right? There's another theory that the mages came, and I fucking killed everyone in my wake and said, this is our land now, and if you fuck with me, I will kill you. So, Some people think I'm a hero. Some people think I'm a war criminal. The truth actually lies somewhere in the middle, right? But we're not going to get into that quite yet because I think it's fun to leave you hanging. I think it's fun to give you just a little bit of the sauce. But once I broke out, I was able to get a bunch of other mages out, and we had brought magic to the world of Viseron. You came? The mages came? Yeah, I came all over it. I came all over the land. I got my magic jizz everywhere. That's not how it will be described in the book. But basically, right, that's what happened. So some of the surnames or the nicknames that I am called is like the Mother of Mages, the Bringer of Magic to the world, because I did that, and it was kind of unintentional. Evie as a person, like me personally, I do want to like clarify that I am kind of separating like me as a person, Evie, and like Evie in the book, Evie as a character, right? Like something to keep in mind, by the way, as I'm explaining this is I am not that character. I think this is common sense, but like just in case, I am not a war criminal in real life. I have not committed any war crimes. Speaking of war crimes, it's a war crime to misuse the Red Cross. Oh, hold on. Let me just Okay, now I'm a war criminal in real life. let me just Oh shit, I forgot to change my hairstyle. There we go. So that's kind of where I come into play, right? So in modern day, around 500, 600 years have passed since I've done that. That number may change, right? I have essentially been elevated to sainthood, not godhood, because I'm not a god. That's a very important distinction to make, which means that someday I will die. And that's actually where the Skyrim model lore comes in as I search for immortality, because if Dave has to outlive me, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. But in Iarlaith, I am revered very, very highly. There's like statues and shit for me. There's like, you know, verses and E's named after me, right? Everybody loves me. And in return, Vanya highly, highly, highly respects me and kind of also worships me as if I were a god, right? Now, is she going to have a don't meet your heroes moment where I tell her what really happened when I brought magic to the world of Viseron? Yeah, so we'll also hit her with the, actually, maybe just the, it's complicated beam. So, she's gonna have mixed opinions on me, but that's where I fit into the world, right? And that's why Vanya doesn't fit in Eldor, right? Eldor believes, because of what I did, that I have defied the gods, and that people that, you know, are mages are purposely defying the gods, and that's a big no-no, right? So Vanya wants to get the fuck out of Eldor, right? And she wants to live a better life. So her ways of going about this, and I think this is about where chapter 3 left off, so still some spoilers, right, is to hopefully work her way up. She's trying to enter the war college in Eldor. She doesn't give a fuck about war, but it's a educational institution. You know, if she can pass herself off as a historian just to like get over on a boat to here, then that's all she really needs, right? But Vanya later on, she does eventually, spoiler alert, this is where we're getting into spoiler territory for the books. She does make it to Eldor, which is cool. Or not to Eldor, to Iarlaith, right? Which is awesome, right? But she does meet somebody there. Dun 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 dun. So over here, where's the art? I have really cute art of Severin, and I need to find it. Where is it? Okay. Where is it? Hold on, give me 1 second. I want to find it because we are now talking about another OC. And if you're thinking, wow, Evie, this is kind of convoluted. It is. Originally, I was going to have a plan, but I thought it'd be more fun to go in with no plan. So that's kind of what we're doing. Where's the image? Where's the image of my boy? Show me my boy. So Severin is a character. So Vanya, we are currently playing as our Legacy of the Dragonborn character. And the reason for that, the reason I chose for her to be our Legacy character is because it kind of made sense. Vanya's whole thing is learning as much about magic as she can because she didn't really get a chance to learn about magic in her childhood. She only got to read like 2 books until she made it into the war college, right? So she is trying to learn as much as she can, travel the world, and eventually become one of the greatest mages alive. That is literally her goal. She's got big dreams, right? That's why she kind of fits in with the Legacy of the Dragonborn vibe, because it's a completionist route. It's a completionist run, right? So, She's also kind of morally questionable. More on that later. I'm trying to find this one image because I know I got art of my OC Severin at one point, but I'm trying to find it. I know I sent it to an artist because why did I send it to them? Oh, I sent it to Rhea because we have emotes of him. Yeah, all these characters we're talking about, most of them we have emotes of. So the emotes might give you some hints too on these characters' demeanors. Here, let me pull up the emote page just so we have it to reference. Where is I'm looking for it. Let me see. I know I had it. I'm trying to like go through a DM and then Twitter's still like forcing me to scroll down, which is annoying. Here we go. Let me pull this tweet up too, because that's a good tweet to have because I have images. Here we go. I found it. Okay. That one. I'm going to open a new tab and then this one. Okay, cool. There we go. Yeah. So I will say, you know, good disclaimer. I never ate people, okay? I might have done a war crime or two, but I'm not a cannibal. Very important distinction to make, right? So this is also Vanya in quote-unquote present day, and this is Severin. So Severin, essentially, this is also Severin. He is our sweet cinnamon flower child, right? And I actually did forget to make one thing on here. We need to make this. And then related. So a lot of people do have this like kind of like Vanya and Freya are like kind of act like sisters, but they're not actually sisters. Whereas Severin is the brother of another character that I have a playthrough ongoing of, and a character that you may not have thought would fit into here. Wait, he's not on this list. Why the fuck is he not here? Oh, god damn it. where's the image of him? Hold on. I have it somewhere. You know what? We're just gonna snipping tool and do this real quick. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So he is actually related to Jasper. So Jasper is my character in the Disregard Wenches. Oh, that's also far away. We're gonna put him like right here. Close enough, right? Jasper is the character we're playing in the Disregard Wenches Acquire Currency playthrough. Captain, what should we do? He's not on the list. So if you got to watch any of the Severin playthrough, you know that Severin is very calm, mild-mannered, sweet, and just genuinely a really nice guy. And Jasper is a fucking sex pest. So you might be wondering, wow, these characters do not seem related at all. Well, they're brothers, essentially. And we'll get into that more a little bit later, right? But Severin is actually the florist for the Queen of Irileth, the current Queen of Irileth, right? He is not just a regular guy that like works with flowers. He literally makes flowers. He is a druid. So he doesn't really, can he defend himself? Can he be a badass? Absolutely, right? But really, he's kind of just living his best life. He lives in a big castle. He gets to make pretty flower arrangements, and he gets to use magic however the way he wants. He's happy, right? However, you might be wondering, how did he get up here, and how the fuck is he related to this guy? So let's go back to the map. Back to the map, okay? So Jasper and Severin are not from Irileth or Eldor, okay? They are from one of the islands over here. Probably this big island that I haven't come up with the name yet. But this island is kind of divided into, whereas these are all like monarchies. Well, Irileth is kind of a mageocracy. They got their own thing going on, but we'll talk more about that later. But Eldor is absolutely a monarchy. Irileth has its own magic going on, basically about who's the most rich and powerful mage. Basically, the way they figure out who is the ruling government is they have these 4 really powerful noble houses, and they all do like a big mage duel against each other, and whoever wins is kind of like the king and queen for like 10 years, right? So The thing is, though, is it's not really the best mage in the land. It's really who's the best mage out of these, like, 4 rich people. So there's no nuance there, you know. But they live here. Whereas this one is very much divided, and I'll draw these lines later, right? Into several smaller territories and states where a lot of it is just, I don't know if, like, I'm trying to figure out what the best word to use to describe it is. They're kind of like a lot of city-states. Oh, so you mean like in real life? Yeah, so just replace, like, modern politics and give everyone, like, level 10 fireball, you know? Like, that's pretty much it. Let me take a sip of my water. But basically, they grew up over here, which was a collection of city-states that don't really have a unified leader. They, again, kind of work in a council. They work together. And despite being filled, a lot of these city-states being filled with really violent coliseums and duels and stuff like that, they're actually pretty chill. Like, they don't get into conflict with each other all that often, because Elder's whole thing is like, yeah, we want you to fight for the military, but we're not gonna, like, chop someone's head off for fun. Whereas over here, Zorus, that's what it's called, the United, like, states here, right, which is this whole landmass is called Zorus, but, like, they're in, like, little different, like, fragments, right? They're like, we will chop someone's head off for fun, right? So they kind of have a much different vibe going on there, whereas this is more like militaristic for honor. This is more like, if you are cringe, we will kill you because you're cringe and we don't like you. Bye. I don't know if that's, like, a good way to explain it, but basically it's a lot more, like, rougher, lots of mercenaries, lots of, like, sellswords, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense, right? But basically, Severin and Jasper grew up here, and they were the sons of one of the leaders of these city-states. So Jasper was the firstborn son, Severin was the second-born son, right? Which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But basically, Jasper has always been a showman of some sort. He has always been the type of guy to go into a gladiator arena and rip his shirt off and get the ladies. He has always been a Rizzler, whereas Severin is just like, that's cool, I want to plant flowers, I just want to read, I just want to chill, you know, I'm just chilling. And their father was like, Severin, you are no son of mine, just chilling is actually illegal, and that makes you a pussy. And he was like, hey. So they had this big falling out, and essentially what happened was basically their dad was saying that excommunicated Severin for, and there's like a whole like bigger story to this, but I am kind of shit post paraphrasing, right? But basically Severin refused to fight and pick up a sword to defend his family when the time arose for it. They were basically being invaded, and they were like, Severin, get out there, kiddo. And he was like, no, I am a pacifist. I don't want to do that. And they're like, can you at least, like, do some magic shit? And he's like, yeah, I can, like, hold them back, but I'm not killing anybody. That's sick and twisted, you freaks. And basically, Jasper and Severin's dad was like, you're no son of mine. Kick! And Jasper was like, bro, what the fuck? So even though Jasper in the playthrough is kind of a fuck, he doesn't understand Severin, but he has always defended him. He's always been like, hey bro, what you doing? Oh, that's cool. You wanna like joust? You wanna like train together? No? Okay, that's fine. Well, I'm here if you need me. You know, he's always been very defensive of him. And the problem was Jasper basically stood up to his father. Right now, Jasper is the firstborn son, so he's supposed to take his father's place at one point. And when Jasper basically tried to defend Severin, right, their father threatened to kill him, to kill Jasper. And Jasper was like, And his dad was basically like, oh, you're not going to fight me? You're not going to pick up your sword, but you will never pick up a sword. You are not worthy of this family's sword ever. And Jasper was like, oh, okay. And by this time, Severin had been like, bye. I'm going to go chill out in the woods for like 3 years. And just kind of vibe there for a little bit. Least abusive father in a fantasy story. Yeah, like, I try not to be too crazy, you know? But basically, the thing with Jasper is also a very talented blacksmith, right? So one of the things that was Jasper's kind of calling card when he was a duelist is he would forge his own blades before every match. So he could make the blade that would destroy his opponents. To him, he felt like he would have a better connection to it, and he could kind of fine-tune his tools as much as he wanted to because he was a blacksmith, right? And if he wasn't related to the guy in charge, like, he's a good fighter, but he's not, like, great, right? Like I said, he's very showy, right? If he wasn't the son of the guy in charge, he'd probably just be working as a smith and maybe fighting for fun in the pits, right? He wouldn't be like a professional or anything like that. So Jasper takes what his dad says to heart, and the way he actually fights now is with a giant fuck-ass hammer. So eventually I am going to get him a warhammer in the playthrough, and I need to kind of respec him, because originally I wanted to do, like, dual axes, because originally it was going to be dual hammers, but I kind of want to make him a warhammer person now, so I might respec him when we actually get to, like, the Skyrim playthrough. But that's the thing, is he's like, oh, I can't carry a sword, then I'm going to carry this big fuck-ass hammer, so it's kind of a way to kind of call back to his history as a blacksmith too. So he eventually, basically, Severin leaves because he's like, I'm not doing this. I know y'all don't care about me. I'm gonna leave. And Severin eventually makes his way to Irileth, right? And that's where he kind of like works his way up. Kind of has, you know how like boomers say, like, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Just go in and ask for a job application and shake their hand. Severin did that, but he shook the hands of the people in charge at the castle that held the king and the queen. And he also did some cool magic shit. And they were like, hey, that's pretty cool. Do you want to be like a servant and like clean our floors? You can like work your way up. And he was like, okay. Because to him, he's just like, I am no longer. He basically kind of hitched a ride. He lived in the woods for a long time. And then he hitched a ride over here, spent some time over here. And then he eventually got over here, right? How he did is kind of, I need to work that out, right? But that's the idea, is he eventually ran away from his abusive father and just dipped out. Right, so Jasper's whole thing is he is trying to look for his brother and bring him home, because even though their dad was a fuck, his mom cared very deeply for Severin and is like, I will understand you even though no one else does. I will care for you when no one else does, right? So when Severin leaves, their mother is absolutely fucking distraught. Right, so that is Jasper's mission. Even though he's no longer welcome in his home territory, he is determined to find Severin and bring him home, right? But they also get a it's complicated. Because here's the thing, Jasper does eventually find Severin, right? And at one point, when Vanya finally makes her way to Irileth and is later basically smuggled in and then taken refuge in, and that's something that's like kind of complicated in the book how that happens, but I swear it makes sense, so I'm not gonna go super in detail. Basically, she kind of has a little Orphan Annie moment, but instead of like the king and queen of Irileth being like, oh my god, you're so gifted, we're gonna adopt you, basically she witnesses a murder, and one of her professors at the war college is doing magic and teaching her magic illegally. So he's like, you know too much. We need to get the fuck out of here. So if you read chapter 3, spoilers about Professor Nerixie. Professor Nerixie is a fucking plant. And he eventually smuggles Vanya out, and they're like, we'll take care of her, because we can't have children of our own, and we would like to have an heir, and she seems to be gifted with magic, so like, we'll fucking take her. So that is where Vanya meets Severin, and the two have a really awkward relationship. Both of them are fucking autistic, and I say that with love as an autistic person. Like, I know that it's like, I know that I shouldn't just be like, oh, you are my OC, I'm autistic, hit you with my autism beam, but like, they're both so autistic for each other, like just in general, right? So basically they start hanging out because since Severin is the florist, he sees her every day to replace the flowers in her room, and they start talking, and he's like also the only person that's around Vanya's age when she finally gets over. By the time she gets over there, she's like 18, 19, right? And everyone else is like old as balls. Or they're really annoying. So Vanya's like, I'll talk to you, and Severin's like, I'll talk to you, you're chill. And then they fall in love. But the relationship kind of gets like a little weird, because Vanya does I know Vanya does like, just like in Skyrim, she does eventually get into blood magic, which is illegal. Even though Irleth is like the land of the mages. Thank you, Noah. This is the evolution of fun. I'm having a great time. Thank you for the hydrate, right? So even though Irleth is like the land of the mages, right, the birthplace of the mages, they still have rules, right? And their whole thing is like, hey, disturbing the dead, kind of fucked up, right? But Vanya's like, but blood magic has so much power. Like, bro, what the fuck? If I can just have the mental discipline to do it and not go insane, then like this could help so many people. Because a lot of Vanya's background as a mage, when she was just kind of teaching herself, is she is inherently a healer, right? We have that whole fucking artwork of her healing Freya. That's literally how the story starts in chapter 1, right? So her whole thought is if she can figure out blood magic, she can save so many people's lives, right? That's the thing, is she's kind of like trying to figure out magical blood transfusions and shit like that. So she starts with noble intentions, but she knows that even though her intentions are good, what she's still doing is illegal, right? So she spends a lot of time, her adopted parents are basically just like, hey, you now have access to all the study materials you want, do whatever, you just tell us what you need, we will get you what you need. She has this like big fuck ass library, this big, basically think of like the Archmage quarters in Skyrim, and that's like her bedroom. She goes from like sharing a room with Freya to like having that big ass like place is her bedroom, right? So she's doing a lot of her own research and experimentation, and her parents really don't see any reason to not trust her, so they kind of let her do her thing. So she keeps the door closed, she keeps the door locked, and she does some experiments in ways that are maybe less than ethical. But her view is it's for science, it's for the greater good. So she starts with experimenting on animals that have recently passed away. She's very keen on, I will not kill anyone myself. I will just see what I can find, but I'm not going to kill anyone myself, right? So she starts experimenting on dead animals she finds outside, maybe like birds or deer that have like gotten fucked up recently, to see if she can basically harness their blood and almost like put life back into them, right? And multiply it in a way. She's doing all these like little experiments. But then eventually, ironically enough, someone is hanged for engaging in the art of necromancy for some really fucked up shit. So in the middle of the night, Vanya goes and essentially somehow gets away with it. She really shouldn't, but somehow she gets away with going into like the back of a fucking dumpster, right? It's not actually a dumpster. They don't have dumpsters in fantasy worlds. And she starts experimenting on this man's dead body, right? Because this is the first time she's ever had a human test subject. And obviously she can't ask people to donate their bodies to science because it's still considered illegal, right? And now she's essentially de facto princess. So she definitely can't do that. She definitely can't go underground, right? Everyone know who she is now, right? Because she's been all around the noble houses of Irleth and shit. So she starts doing some fucked up shit, and things get a little messy because it hadn't been very long since this man died, and that's where Vanya learns about rigor mortis. But the thing is this, in her hurry to get this body back to her study and not disturb anyone, she forgets one crucial step, and that is to lock the fucking door behind her. And who wanders in because he left his fucking glasses in her room when he was changing the flowers? This guy! So, the thing with Severin is he is very, very chill and very, very accepting. So, when he walks in and sees Vanya covered in a dead man's blood, and blood everywhere, he's kind of just like, what you doing? What you up to? And Vanya starts freaking the fuck out. She's like, please don't tell anyone, please don't tell anyone. Oh my god, please don't tell anyone. And he's like, can you just tell me what the fuck you're doing? And he recognizes the guy's face. It's kind of hard to see, but he's like, oh, okay, this was the guy that was hung earlier in town this morning. Also, there is going to be definitely some themes about, like, this is the place that everyone says is so great and everyone says is so nice. Oh, they're hanging people in the streets. Ah! So, there's, because the theme with Irleth is all of the nobles think they're better and smarter than the people in Eldor, right? But really, they're kind of, they're like, oh, we're better than those militaristic barbarians to the east. We're smarter. We solve things with diplomacy. Really, they're kind of the same. They just use more flowery language, right? They just have a bigger vocab, but both of the heads of houses in here, in Eldor and in Irileth are not great, and that's something Vanya and Freya both kind of discover at different times in the story, right? So basically, Severin finds her with the dead body, and he's just like, so why are you doing this? And Vanya kind of explains herself. She's like, I want to help people. I feel like this could be a really valuable, magic resource. I feel like this is good stuff to know, right? And could really save a lot of lives. And Severin's like, hey, I can get behind that. I fuck with that. Yeah, I won't tell anyone. In fact, actually, just let me know if you need anything, and I'll watch the door or whatever. Just good luck, So eventually Severin starts coming to make sure no one's going into her room when she's studying. And eventually he kind of starts to get hands-on and starts doing some of the experiments with her himself, right? Even though he thinks it's a little weird, he can't help but be a little interested, right? But the way he kind of disassociates himself from it is he kind of just thinks of people as plants, right? Plants die and they give their life back to the soil, right? In a way, he kind of views Vanya's views on blood magic as the same thing. People die and they give their life back to the world, and that's what Vanya's trying to kind of accomplish. You know what I mean? So they do eventually fall in love. It is, again, a very awkward relationship because Vanya kind of girl bosses too hard. The thing with Vanya and Severin's relationship is it is kind of toxic. There is a lot of Vanya kind of pushing Severin to see how much he'll tolerate as she kind of descends further and further into madness, because, well, the overarching theme of my book is power corrupts, right? So Vanya starts off with good intentions, but the more and more she learns, the more and more she gets kind of, And the big question that the book is kind of going to is Vanya going to drag herself out of this hole and come to her senses, or is she going to become an absolute fucking supervillain? And I honestly, even as a writer, haven't decided that yet, because it's really going to depend on what happens to this guy, right? So, this is going to sound really fucked up. And again, potential spoilers, but I don't know, If Severin dies, right? Because, again, Vanya, they have a complicated relationship. Vanya does kind of push him to do stuff that maybe he doesn't want to do when her research gets more and more involved, so to speak. But, she does genuinely care for him. She does genuinely love him. And she views him as her best friend, right? Which, Freya later finds out about and is kind of just like, oh, okay. So if Severin dies, dead ass, right? And I don't know if he is. I haven't decided yet. If Severin dies, Vanya's gonna go on a fucking warpath. Vanya will absolutely go insane. If Severin lives, right, which again, I haven't decided yet, he's probably gonna be the one to pull Vanya out of it, okay? So something to keep in mind is, while this is happening, Freya is on the other country. They are not together at this point. They've kind of been like, right? Because Freya has gone off to be in the military in Eldor, and Vanya got smuggled into Irileth because she witnessed a murder. And it was no longer deemed safe for her to be there because she was taking magic lessons from a spy. So the thing is, while this is happening though, Freya has been tasked with a mission. Right, so she's in the military, right, and Freya is essentially told, hey, I need you, we are trying to do research on the mages, and we are trying to commission a blacksmith from Zoras that we have been told is very talented and is even a capable warrior, right, and we would like to commission his talents to help us, essentially forge new weapons and new technologies to work against the mages. And Freya's like, okay, who is this guy? And they're like, his name is Jasper Cull. You will find him here. Good luck. So she's sent on this solo kind of expedition to find Jasper. So Freya essentially, the way I have this scene planned out in my head is Freya is kind of like walking and she's like asking around because she finally gets to like where he is currently living, because he's not living in his home state anymore because he got kicked out, right? And she's like, hey, where can I find this guy? And everyone's like, oh my god, he's so hot, oh my god, we love him, he's so hot. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she goes in and she realizes that all these people are freaking out and having a good time and partying because there's a pit fight going on. And she's looking at the description she has. She looks into the pit and there is Jasper absolutely making a fucking ass of himself. In the pit fights, he's like ripping his shirt off. He's yelling. He's like flirting with people in the crowd. But he does win, right? But the thing is he wins in a way where Freya's kind of like, wow, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because even though she's from a militaristic society, they weren't just like chopping people's heads off. Jasper is literally the type of bitch who will decapitate someone, then dab immediately after, right? So Freya at first is genuinely like, I hate this man. This man fucking sucks. But she picks him up and she's like, hi, I'm from Eldor, and they want to pay you to do stuff. And he's like, okay, bet. That's cool. When do I need to go there? And she's like, I don't know. They just want me to find you. And he's like, well, I'll go when I'm ready. And Freya's like, I can't just, he emotes on his heels. Yes, he literally fucking Fortnite dances at people. But Freya's just like, I can't just come back and tell them he'll come when he's ready. So Jasper's like, well, you got anywhere to be then? And Freya's like, no, I fucking traveled for 2 fucking weeks to find you. And he's like, oh, okay. Alright, we'll just like chill then. I'm gonna go get my dick wet. Like, that's literally one of the first scenes is him doing that and Freya being like, we need to get you to Eldor to speak with my leaders. And he's like, that's cool and all. I'm going to go pay a prostitute money to suck my dick. See ya in the morning. Like, that's lit. And Freya's just like, what the fuck is this man? I hate him. But later on, as they travel together, right, they kind of have a whole moment because there is something that does turn Freya from kind of like a cinnamon roll into very stone-faced and cold, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And Jasper kind of helps her open up again and enjoy life again, enjoy kind of a more carefree lifestyle, right? They never really become lovers, although it is definitely, so here's the thing, I kind of want Freya to be asexual, right, or aromantic, but like, I'm gonna be honest, I want to read up more on how to write like asexual characters, you know, because my thought is like, Freya is very much a, while you were having sex, I was studying the blade kind of bitch, you know, but I don't want it to be like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I've never written ace characters before, and I don't want to be, like, disrespectful. You know what I mean? But that's kind of how I envision her. Does Jasper absolutely try to get in her pants at one point? Yes. Does he get shot down immediately and is then afraid of her? Yeah. So, basically, they become besties, right? And he kind of teaches Freya how to be a little bit less serious, right? And Freya eventually learns about how he kind of, the thing with Jasper is like, in the playthrough, I meme about him being a fucking pussy destroyer. He's really just kind of using sex to cope with his trauma. Really to him, it's the only way he feels good about himself is when he's fucking somebody, because he has all this trauma of not being good enough and being kicked out by his dad. So yeah, there's that. So Freya kind of helps him try to get over that in one way, and he's like, I don't know if I will ever. He kind of has the Astarion bit. You know how in Baldur's Gate 3, Astarion's like, I've had millions of lovers, but I've never had a friend? That, like, if you choose, like, just the friendship route with him, that's kind of what they have, right? Like, he's like, I've fucked all these bitches, and I feel soulless. Will you be my friend? And Freya's like, okay, I will be your friend. So, they're kind of traveling while all that is happening, right? But as time passes, some other things happen. So, as, you know, time passes, Vanya gets older and older. She, like many other skilled mages in Irileth, are encouraged to take on an apprentice. And that is where Miss Girl Rasha comes in. So Rasha is actually also from Zoris, where Jasper originates, right? Where Jasper and Severin originate, right? And Rasha is an orc. Right, and there are more orcs in Zoris than there are anywhere else, but there's still not a lot of them in general. So she's always been kind of an outcast, right? Now, Rasha has always had an inclination for the arcane arts, right? And let me actually write some names down real quick. So we got Vanya, Severin, me, Jasper, and Rasha, right? So Rasha's always had an inclination for the arcane arts, but she's also kind of big and beefy orc lady, right? The thing with Rasha is, even though she looks like big beefy orc lady, she really, oh yeah, here's more like early playthrough, like before I used immersive and epic images of Vanya. I always kind of wanted her to have resting bitch face. I hope that comes through. But she's always been kind of a adventurer. Here we go, here's Rasha, right? So when Rasha was growing up, she didn't have a ton of friends, because a lot of people were kind of afraid of her, but she did have one friend, and I don't know if I remember her name yet. I know who she is, but I haven't come up with a name yet for her. Which, this is actually the portrait of Layla we used during our Stealth Archer playthrough. Layla is not part of the story or the canon, right? But I didn't have like an image for her friend, but I remembered she was a redhead, so I just used kind of her as a placeholder. I think I want her name to be like Cornelia or something like that. We're just gonna call her that for now. We're just gonna say name pending Yuri. Name pending toxic Yuri. Because that's kind of where we're headed, right? So the thing is Rasha has only one friend, and that is with name pending Toxic Yuri. And name pending Toxic Yuri is a very, very skilled mage. She's kind of just a natural. She's more of a sorcerer than like a wizard, if you get my drift, right? And Rasha is like begging her, like, can you please teach me magic? Can you please teach me magic? And she's like, yeah, I will eventually. Yeah, absolutely. And she never really does. And eventually, Rasha kind of stands up for herself and is like, you never trusted me. And her friend basically then confesses, I don't think she basically is like, I would be afraid of you if I taught you what I know. And Rasha is like, what the fuck? But the thing is they had a thing. They were lesbians. They were in lesbians. And so they had this whole thing. And then she basically breaks up with Rasha to get with a boy of higher standing. Rasha is left heartbroken. And then she's kind of vaguely racist to Rasha. Will she have her good luck babe, like, Chapel Row moment where it's like, when you wake up next to heaven? Yeah, probably. But Rasha is left fucking heartbroken after this. So she's like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't need you to teach me magic. I'm gonna take my own destiny in my hands, right? So she writes to hundreds of fucking mages in Irileth because you need to be sponsored as an apprentice, right? Like, they have to pay for you. Like, it's one of those things where it's like everyone in Irileth is like told they need to take on an apprentice, and they're like, yeah, you gotta do it, but they still have to pay for it, right? So it's like it's kind of like taxes. Like, no one wants to pay taxes, right? But you gotta do it. You know, it's seen as like your civic duty, right? This is seen as like the civic duty for citizens of Irileth, right? To take on an apprentice. So Rasha writes to hundreds and hundreds of mages in Irileth to try and get her over, and none of them respond except for Vanya, right? Vanya is literally the only one that responds because a lot of people view Rasha as too young, right? At this point, Vanya and Severin are both like in their 20s. And Rasha is also in her 20s, which is considered pretty young, but Vanya's like the youngest of all of them. So she's like the only one that is willing to take on Rasha. as an apprentice, right? So Rasha takes the boat over to Irileth, and is now working under Vanya. But now Vanya and Severin kind of have their work cut out for them to continue their blood magic studies and not have Rasha get wind of it. Because if Rasha finds out, she would freak the fuck out, and appropriately so, right? So basically, Vanya's trying to take on Rasha, teach her as much as she can, and be a good mentor to her mentee, while also kind of struggling with finding a standstill in her research, and basically trying to hide all the fucked up shit she's doing from her apprentice, right? So that's where Rasha fits into the story. And Rasha does eventually kind of come into her own. She is also close friends with Severin too. They kind of have this cool like trio thing going on where they're like, we're friends, we're best friends. And actually there is a fourth person, and it becomes not a trio, but we'll talk about that person soon, right? So also, I'm going to put friends with Severin and me, because Severin is the only person in his country when he's growing up that believes I exist. And that's because he had an encounter with me when he was a child, because this is a fantasy setting, but motherfucker has glasses. That does not make sense, right? But basically, he has an encounter when he's a child where he's getting chased and teased by some bullies, but he can't see where to go because he has vision problems. But it's the fucking medieval period, so no one knows what to do about it. And then I appear, and I'm like, go that way. And he's like, what the fuck? This random woman's in the wood. And I'm just like, fucking run, go! And eventually I catch up with him, and I give him my glasses, right? So that's why he has them. He knows that it's stupid to wear them out in public because people are gonna be like, what the fuck is this futuristic invention? He doesn't really question what they are because essentially a prophet gave them to him, or a saint gave them to him. But the glasses that he is wearing, where is it? I think it's here. Where is it? Yeah, the glasses that he's wearing here are my glasses. Like, that's the bit. So he also kind of is like, I see her in my dreams. She is like, I worship her, I pray to her, and she has guided me in my time of needs. And I'm just like, yeah. So I'm also gonna put friends there too, because he also thinks I exist, which is pretty cool. A lot of these fuckers do not think I exist, or they think I'm a war criminal, which is like, whatever, you know. But we still have a few more characters to get over. So we have 2 characters left that we haven't talked about. One of them is Miss Faldra Volrad, and I fucking love Faldra Volrad with my entire life. She was actually my first D&D character, and she's actually never shown up on my streams or in my book yet, right? She was on the list to be the big Legacy of the Dragonborn playthrough character, but she lost to Vanya. Actually, Freya was also a contender. Freya and Vanya were very neck and neck in the votes, but Faldra didn't get a lot of love, which is a little disheartening, but in hindsight, I'm kind of glad she didn't win, because she doesn't really fit that. She definitely fits a more evil-oriented playthrough. Now, the thing with Faldra is everyone here, like, when it comes to, like, current day, is like, oh, Apple, thank you for the lurk. Everyone here, when it comes to current day, is, like, in their mid-20s, right? Faldra's in her early 40s. So here's the tea with Faldra, okay? Faldra, when, you know how I mentioned Vanya witnessed a murder? You know who did that murder? This guy. So Faldra is basically an assassin for not the country of Irileth, but for specifically her boyfriend, who is the head of one of the, or is trying to be one of the head of one of the noble houses of Irileth, right? So Faldra is dating this guy named Reuven, who's not here, right? Because he's not really that, like, he's important of a character, but he's not, like, one of the main characters. You know what I mean? And she's dating this guy named Reuven. And the thing is Reuven really wants to be the head of the house. He really wants to be powerful. But motherfucker has 12 brothers. He is 13th in line. So instead of being a normal person, he basically manipulates this assassin lady to be his girlfriend, and bribes her with love and affection if she kills people for him. If she kills his family members for him. Now, Faldra was like, text her behind ear. Yeah. So Faldra, the murder that Vanya actually witnessed was not who she was supposed to be murdering, right? Faldra knew that one of Reuven's brothers was doing business in Eldor, right? Because there's no way she would be able to get away with a lot of these murders in Irileth. She's usually getting them while they're traveling, right? So she knew that he was going to be in Eldor for work, for negotiations, and she was asked to kill him there. However, Reuven is kind of getting sick of Faldra. Like, she's, like, at this point, Faldra's killed, like, 5 of his siblings, and now it's like, okay, this is not just random, you know, crime. There's a pattern here. Our family is being targeted. And Reuven's like, fuck. So instead of, like, breaking up with her and being like, hey, they're on your trail, you should skedaddle, he purposely gives Faldra wrong information about her target, because Faldra doesn't really know a lot of his siblings, because she's not really allowed to, right? She's not part of the noble house. She's not part of the family. She meets some of them in passing, but also, Faldra is a human, and Reuven is an elf, and he's kind of embarrassed to be with her, even though he's using her for his own gain, right? So he gives her wrong information, and she actually ends up killing someone way more important than the person that's, like, 6th in line of succession for the noble house. And Faldra's like, oh, fuck. So to help dissuade, you know, kind of get her out of there, she does eventually go back to Irileth, right? And she actually, kind of starts being a housewife for Reuven to try and, like, prove her worth to him, because now she's like, I can't be an assassin anymore, I gotta kind of lay low. So she starts kind of being a housewife, and then she gets Pregananant, whoopsie, and she's like, okay, cool, now that I'm Pregananant, maybe he'll, like, finally love and accept me. And he's like, fuck. Now I can't dump her, shit. His family is, like, very embarrassed by him because he's having a child out of wedlock with a fucking human woman nonetheless, so their child's gonna be a half-elf. But Faldra loses the baby, and Reuven eventually kind of kicks her to the curb and is like, fuck you, right? Now, this all happens over the course of, like, 10 years. So when Faldra first gets, or, sorry, not Faldra, when Vanya first gets to Irileth, she does see Faldra, and she sees her, like, constantly dressed in black. She constantly usually wears a veil over her face, because when she is present at noble events, Reuven's family has basically told her, we don't want to see you. We have to accept that you are there, but we don't want to see you. So a lot of times she's wearing, like, veils and stuff because that's what his family wants, because they view her presence as, like, an insult to them, essentially. So eventually, Reuven becomes one of the big bad villains of this story, Lamau, and to get information on him, Vanya remembers Faldra because she watched her fucking murk somebody, and 2, she's seen him in court. Or she's seen her in court. So when they start needing to get the dirt on Reuven, Vanya, Severin, and Rasha kind of work together to find Faldra. And Faldra, after this has all fallen out, she's kind of fallen from grace. She has no child, no boyfriend, no money, no family, 3 kids in the middle of Miami. No, I'm kidding. She is not having a good time after that. She's kind of having a midlife crisis. She's doing a lot of drugs. And they find her in this really seedy establishment. Of course, Vanya and Severin have kind of gone incognito. They're using, you know, spells to change their appearance. Because, of course, if they're walking in this really seedy bar, they're going to get fucking robbed. And they ask her, you know, if she'd be up for a job. And she's like, I have not worked a job in a very, very long time. I'm done. And Vanya's like, we're trying to learn about Reuven. And Faldra's like, oh yeah? Fuck, I'll do it then, shit. Because Faldra's like kind of hell-bent on revenge. She kind of wants to kill this fucker. So that's how Faldra, this grown-ass woman, ends up becoming besties with Vanya and Severin and Rasha, essentially. So they all work together. They are kind of like the main 4, whilst Jasper and Freya are kind of off doing their own weird shit as they're traveling. But Faldra is a delight, because the thing with Faldra is she is a very badass assassin, but her one downfall, she cannot talk her way out of anything. So she's very, very stealthy, and she doesn't get caught often. Because if she does get caught and interrogated, it's fucking Jover, right? So that's her whole thing. She's aware of her weaknesses. She knows she can't, she knows she's not elegant. She knows she's not graceful when it comes to her words, right? So she basically prides herself on being the sneakiest bitch alive, you know? But she does fuck up. She's not perfect. She's wants to be the femme fatale assassin, but she rolls a lot of nat ones, for lack of a better word, right? So that's a T there. And the only other guy we haven't talked about is this motherfucker down here. Now, this motherfucker down here, like I said, we have a Skyrim portrait for him, right? But he hasn't come up a whole lot. I don't do a playthrough of him. This is Cain. And if you've read the books, you know who Cain is, right? Cain is actually the guy that fucking decked Vanya in the face in the first chapter. So even though time passes and they do start hanging out as a trio, Vanya still fucking hates him. Vanya holds a grudge. Actually, let me see if we can find the picture. I know I have it in chapter 2. It's in chapter 2. Oh my god, wow, that's where you can read my book. Wow, that's like one of the places you can read my book. Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. Where's chapter 2? Where's the art? I have art in here. Hold on. Ha! So this is kind of the three of them hanging out, right? You can see he's pissed off, right? So the thing is Cain thinks Vanya's a fucking freak, thinks he's a weirdo, thinks she's a weirdo. So he has, he basically fucks with her as much as she can, and Vanya hates it. And the thing is Vanya can't really fight back because the only way she knows how to fight back is fucking illegal. So she's just kind of like, ugh. But Freya eventually saves her. And the thing is like, they do kind of like become friends towards the end, but not really, right? So here's the thing, is Freya beats the absolute living shit out of Cain to defend Vanya. Cain finds that attractive because he's a little fucking freak, right? And Cain wants to get with Freya. He has a big fucking crush on Freya. So I'm gonna like draw like one of these lines, but like only halfway, because Freya does not like him back, right? And Freya eventually makes it very clear to him, if you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends, right? Freya is very much like, listen, man, I get that you're trying to turn over a new leaf. I respect that. And I think you're a very talented warrior, and I respect you. However, you need to be nice to Vanya if you want to hang out with me. If you don't fuck with Vanya, I'm not fucking with you, essentially. So Cain tolerates Vanya. Vanya still fucking hates him. And Freya's trying to kind of like be a, you know, why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Kind of type bitch. But the thing is, you know how I mentioned there was an event where Freya kind of goes stone cold? So eventually Vanya is swept up in the middle of the night to go to Iarlaith. She's smuggled there after she witnesses a murder, right? And she has like 10 minutes to say goodbye. So she essentially wakes Freya up in the middle of the night and is like, I love you. I've taught you how to read and write. I will write to you. I don't know where I'm going, but I will find you. I'm sorry. I need to go. And Freya's like, what the fuck? So Freya feels incredibly betrayed because Freya has done so much for Vanya. She has helped Vanya with so many things. She's helped her get into so many things just by being there for her and helping Vanya be a little less socially awkward. And then Vanya's fucking gone. So even though Vanya tries to give an explanation, Freya's still kind of heartbroken, you know? And in the time that Vanya's gone, her and Cain do get very close, right? And they get very close to being lovers, but they never actually do, right? So eventually, Cain and Freya grow up, and they end up getting involved in this thing called the King's Tournament, right? And the King's Tournament is this big event that's held every year. It's a bunch of tournaments. Everyone from Eldor comes over. They send representatives from every, like, town in Eldor to fight. And sometimes they're fighting each other. Sometimes they're fighting animals. It's like this big festival where there's all kinds of different tournaments involved. It's like jousting, fighting monsters, fighting each other, you know, big group fights. It's crazy, right? And Freya, but the thing is the top winners get a spot in the king's army, which is one of the most prestigious positions one can be in, right? Because the king, even though he's kind of a fucker, believes that good warriors can be found anywhere, right? So I want to see him. So Freya and Cain both enter this contest together, right? And here's the thing. You're not supposed to kill anyone in this contest. It's supposed to be non-lethal blows, right? Because they say they're not, you know, they're kind of like, you know, a for honor type thing. They're not out for bloodshed like Jasper over here, right? So basically, right, Cain right as they're supposed to go on to fight each other because they end up being in kind of the final numbers of the tournament, Cain is like, this may be my last time to say this. I love you. And Freya's like, wow. That's crazy. And he's like, and he's probably confessed to her at one point before this, and like she's still just like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna lie to you, and also shut up. No one's gonna die. Spoiler alert, that's wrong. Cain fucking dies. And the problem is Freya kills him on accident. Right? It is completely an accident. It is a misstep. She trips and her blade lands in an unfortunate spot, and Cain cannot be saved in time. Part of this is because they don't use magic for healing, or they use it very limitedly, right? So this is kind of one of those things where, again, changes Freya's worldview. Like, if Vanya was here, she might have been able to save him. And there's actually instances before this where Cain gets into some fights where he gets really fucked up, and Vanya is the one that saves him through illegal magic, right? So Freya's in a weird spot because Vanya has left and she accidentally killed her friend. She is all alone, and she feels kind of like the way she did when she was younger and her parents died in front of her, right? She has nobody. And now she's committed a big illegal by killing someone in the tournament. Even though it was an accident, she is set to be executed. Right, an eye for an eye is kind of what they do in Eldor, right? They still execute people in Irileth, but it's for like, you have to like, we could get in a whole conversation about like the death penalty and shit, which I don't want to because it's a fantasy setting, right? Here's the thing: is Irileth will act like they don't execute people, and the Eldor executing people is barbaric, but then they'll go around and do the same thing. Like, they're just not, they don't make it a whole big public thing. They do it in like a very private setting, right? Whereas Eldor will just hang you on the street for everyone to see. So, but they're still killing people, you know what I mean? Like, one's not better than the other, right? So Freya is set to be hung, but she is met by a general who's like, they're not gonna kill you. And she's like, what? They're like, the king is not going to kill you. However, we need to make use of you if we are going to use you, and we can't allow you in the king's army now, right? Because it's still fresh in people's heads what happened. There's gonna be a fucking moral panic if they put you in. But we want to see what you're capable of. And that is when they sent her on the mission to find Jasper. So I think that's basically like, oh, hi Articus! I have come for everyone's taxes. I brought protection. No, not my taxes! I already paid my taxes. I don't have any tax money left. But that is essentially kind of like the TLDR of my OCs and the first kind of like half of my book. I say TLDR, but it was an hour and a half. So basically, I think this explains it pretty well, you know? So I've been really busy lately. I haven't been able to write as much as I'd like, but thank you everyone who has checked out my book already. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people just think of me as funny Skyrim woman, but I really care a lot about my original characters, and my goal is to be a published fantasy author one day. And I am still really bad at world building, which David is helping me out with, which I'm really, really grateful for, you know. But I don't know. I'm hoping after OFFKAI Expo, things slow down a little bit and I can get back to writing then. You know what I mean? Because I do really love writing. I started writing chapter 4. I haven't finished it yet. But I'm hoping the story's divided into acts, and Act 1 is kind of like their childhood. I'm hoping Act 1 can be wrapped up by like chapter 6. And then Act 2 is kind of where we get into most of what we talked about today is actually Act 2. Right? Act 3 is where things get kind of, with Vanya and her necromancy, illegal magic bullshit. But, I don't know. I still have a lot to plan. It's just, I love my characters so much. I will probably be posting more. I'm hoping I can get more art of my OCs and stuff too. And when Act 1 is done, I kind of want to do a cover where it's like not me, it's like the characters themselves. I think that would be really fun. So, I don't know. But I know this wasn't like my normal streams. I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun to just kind of ramble about my OCs. But if you are into fantasy novels, if you kind of fucked with anything I talked about, please consider checking out my book. There's only 3 chapters so far. You can read it on Wattpad or on Inkit. If anyone knows any other places I can put it on, please let me know. But that's where I'm putting it. If you are also interested in hanging out with me or seeing other short stories I post, because I do post them in the Discord and I do like little lore hints here and there. I do have a Discord and I also have a YouTube. I don't know if I'm gonna put this VOD on YouTube. I might. I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know if this would be a good VOD, but well, maybe I will. Fuck it. But yeah, thank you gamers for hanging out with me. This was really fun, and it was honestly low-key kind of a rough day, but this really cheered me up. So thank you for being here and listening to my ramblings and my rants. But without further ado, let's figure out who we can go raid and send our love and affection to. Who's streaming right now? Let's go raid. Oh, we'll raid Yume. Yume raids us all the time, and usually I'm not streaming when she's streaming. So we're gonna raid Yume. She is a dear friend of mine. She's very sweet. She is doing some yapping. She's doing some just chatting. So please give her the same love and affection that you give me. And I will see you guys on Sunday. I will see you guys on Sunday for Skyrim Sunday. All right, gamers, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the flip side. Oh wait, we need a raid message. We didn't raid last time with a raid message, so we're just gonna do EB raid. We'll keep it. Actually, no, we're gonna do lore raid. For the lore. Alright, gamers, I will see you on Sunday, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye bye.